There was a man named Daniel. He used to be full of dreams, the kind of man who believed that every sunrise meant another chance to start over. But life has a way of testing that kind of hope. One by one, things slipped away. His job, his friends, the woman he loved. And every night, he'd come home, kick off his shoes by the door and whisper, "Maybe tomorrow will be better." But tomorrow never seemed to change. One evening, rain poured harder than ever. Daniel sat alone in the dark, no lights on, just the sound of thunder and the slow ticking of a clock that seemed louder than his heartbeat. He thought about giving up, not just on his dreams, but on everything. He said quietly, "God, if you still see me, give me one reason not to quit." The room stayed silent. A few minutes later, there was a knock. Daniel hesitated, then opened the door to find a little girl, drenched, shivering, holding a basket of bread. She smiled and said, "Mom asked me to bring this to you. She said you helped her last year when she couldn't pay her rent." Daniel stared at her, confused, speechless. He didn't even remember the woman's face. But the little girl's smile was enough to break something inside him. The silence, the hopelessness, the weight he'd been carrying for years. He invited her in, gave her a towel, and sat her by the fire. And as she talked, something shifted in him. He realized, sometimes you don't see the seed you plant. Sometimes your kindness blooms in places you forgot you ever touched. After the girl left, Daniel looked at the shoes by the door, old, worn, soaked from the rain, and he smiled for the first time in months. He whispered, "All right, God, I'll keep walking." The next morning, Daniel woke up early. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew this. As long as he was breathing, there was purpose. He found a small notepad, wrote down 3 words, and stuck it to the door. Keep moving forward. From that day, Daniel began to visit hospitals, shelters, and small communities, just talking, listening, reminding people they still mattered. He didn't have much money, but he had hope, and sometimes that's more than enough to rebuild a life. Years later, people began to call him the man with a message, not because he preached from a stage, but because he lived it. Everywhere he went, he carried that same note in his pocket. Keep moving forward. When he passed away, they found dozens of pairs of shoes by his door, shoes worn from visiting the broken, the lonely, and the forgotten. And every person who came to say goodbye brought their own pair, not to mourn him, but to continue the walk he started. Because hope doesn't end with one person. It multiplies through every act of kindness, every step of faith, every heart that chooses to believe again. So if you're listening right now and life feels heavy, if you've lost more than you can count, just remember Daniel's shoes. You may be tired. You may be standing in the rain. But as long as you've got strength to take one more step, God can still use your walk to lead someone else home. Keep